Hey, do you know when the financial aid application is due for insanely expensive private university?
Oh, I didn't apply for that.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about my number one financial mistake, which was attending a private university. A little over 3 years ago, I graduated with a BS degree and 6 figures of student loan debt. So if you happen to be a rising senior, a high school grad, or even a college grad thinking of going to graduate school, please consider watching this video. Personally, I would really love it if you could avoid the mistake that I made, which was going to a private university that I couldn't afford and spending at least 3 of my working years now, putting all of my earnings right back towards those loans. So I want to talk about what even put me in the position where I was attending a school I couldn't afford and what you can do to actually avoid being in this position like myself. Let's get into it. Honestly, discussing why I'm paying thousands of dollars in student loan debt at 24 would not be complete without me talking about my mindset as a 17-year-old. 7 years ago, I was a senior in high school and I was obviously very stressed out about college applications, stressed out about my grades to make sure that they would work with my college applications. At that point, I obviously had done school for a few years. I always tried to get straight A's and I would get upset if I didn't get an A. Obviously, my parents had an influence on that, particularly my dad. So I really tried to maintain very good grades so that I could get into a good university. That was really my goal for 12 years, I guess, since I started my schooling. So senior year, I was basically working towards my life goal in that 1 year. And being the type of person that I am, I didn't really need anyone telling me what I should be doing. Like, I typically would always kind of push myself to get to a point. So that's kind of why my mom was able to take a very laissez-faire approach to me and like disciplining me, just because I was really hard on myself when I didn't reach a certain goal that I wanted to reach. And ultimately it did backfire, because senior year I honestly felt so entitled to go to a good school that I potentially couldn't even afford because I had the grades to get into it. So to me, if I was not able to attend a school that I felt was up to my made-up standards, I would have failed at my only life goal at that point. And obviously a lot of this was just in my head, but it really played into what colleges I ultimately applied to and how many options I really had when I did pick a college that I got into to attend. So while I was applying to college, I did have a guidance counselor, and even the guidance counselor pretty much suggested that I apply to these insanely expensive schools, and I don't think budget was ever something that was talked about. Maybe it was my responsibility to bring it up, but I really don't think it was something that was deemed that important or stressed as much as it probably should have. And so I had this list of colleges that I had made, a list of colleges that my guidance counselor had put together for me, and I took that list, condensed it a little bit, and put them on the list of colleges I would actually apply to. I don't think any one of them were actually public universities or even in-state universities. It wasn't really about me having to go out of state for college, but more so the ones that I liked and the ones that were on top of my list happened to be out of state. And of course, they also had the program that I wanted to study, which was chemical engineering. And honestly, probably the reason why I don't remember money or costs being stressed as much in my senior year of high school, in my experience, was probably because of the socioeconomic background of many of the students in my school. Now, I am very lucky to have been able to attend the school that I attended for free because I got a family member discount, essentially. Even before I started high school, I already knew in my head that I would probably be at a lower economic or social class than the people who would later be my classmates. And that's really been the experience for me. Obviously, I've made amazing friends who I love and I still keep in contact with today, but that was really the environment that I was in. Like, I knew that, you know, I didn't have as much money as some of my classmates or their families did, and that was fine with me. But you know, I think it's great that people are fortunate, but I think at that age, I always just try to kind of assimilate to that culture. And so that ultimately turned into me striving for something that really I should not have been striving for because I couldn't afford it. And it's kind of sad to think about. But I was honestly influenced by my classmates and my school to pick a college that was deemed as good or a great school, and typically that was a private university that costs, you know, $60,000 a year. And I saw that as normal because that's what everyone else was doing. And yeah, a lot of my classmates probably took out student loans as well. As you saw in the intro video, that was not the case for everyone, but I think it was likely the case for a lot of the people who did go to my school. And it's really interesting to think about that moment now, years later, because it had such a big impact on me and my friend who happened to be there, because, you know, it was a true event and our true reactions were just us being in shock at what we heard. Although I did have a lot of influencing factors around me, the biggest thing was just me being too prideful to just pick a school that I or my parents could afford to put me in for college, and just kind of essentially swallow my pride and go to a public university or a community college nearby and just spend a few $100s on a course rather than thousands of dollars and having to pay for room and board, because that all really added up. And that's essentially how I find myself now, with still $68,000 of debt after paying debt off for the past 3 years. Which is why people should really start looking at college as a business rather than just education. So if any of you are thinking of attending an expensive private university that you can't afford, please keep these things in mind, or at least consider them when picking out your major, your college, or what you ultimately want to do with your life. If you're a high school senior stressing out about college, or a rising senior scared about where you're gonna go or what you're gonna do the following year, just keep this in mind. You will get into college. You will get into college. Now say it with me. I will get into college. Not everyone has to go into college, but if you want to go to college and you work for it, you will get into college. Community college is literally the best option. You go to school for 2 years, you get an associate's degree after just 2 years, and then you can always transfer to a public university, and oftentimes that's usually easier than just trying to get into the public university first. Plus, it's a lot cheaper to do so. So you can even work a part-time job while you're in college and, you know, work on your education. I find that people who have a structured life rather than trying to participate in all aspects of the college experience are usually more disciplined and are usually more mindful of how they're doing in their classes because they're actually paying for them out of pocket. The next thing to keep in mind is to pick a major with a good return on investment. If you have the money to spend on whichever university you want to go to and you want to pick like basket weaving, cool, but you better have a way to monetize it. You better have a way that you're gonna market a business if you eventually create it. So to put it in a weird analogy, just make sure that the punishment matches the crime. Don't pick a major that will not have a good return on investment if your investment involves debt, first of all, or if your investment involves years of learning and you can't actually generate a good income from it in the future. Personally, I picked engineering and I really did not have to go to a private university to study engineering. Like, I could have just done that anywhere. I really did not have to go to a $60,000 per year school. That was so unnecessary and it was a big mistake, and I'm still paying for it. If you want to be an engineer, just go to a public university. It's not that big of a deal. If you can afford it, sure, go to the private university, but is it really worth it? I personally can't 100% answer that because I haven't taken chemical engineering courses at a public university. But what I can say is that the courses that I've taken for my master's degree at a public university, all online, have definitely been challenging enough for the type of course that it was and what I was expecting from that course. And truly, the way that professors teach or how they organize their course is not very different from the way that private university professors teach or organize their courses. So make of that what you will, but I'm really trying to drive the point that what you pay for should really be your education. It should not be a bunch of amenities. Yeah, clubs are cool and every college will probably have a club, so that really shouldn't be a big area of concern. But do you really need to go to a school that has a chocolate fountain if you want to study finance? I don't think so. Now, even if you're in high school or you've already graduated college, there are scholarships available for you. There are so many sites that actually have a list of scholarships available for you where you live, what your background is, that you can easily look up and start applying to. And if you make this a part of your regular routine, just applying for scholarships and trying to get as much money as you can so that you can pay for your education, that's literally one of the best part-time jobs or side hustles that you could possibly have, because you could be making thousands of dollars from filling out a few applications with likely the same information over and over, and by that point you'll also be improving your writing skills. So I see it as a win-win, on top of the fact that you can work at it from home. The other thing that is more important than how much you're paying for your education is what you're getting out of it. Are you able to find opportunities to have experience in the field that you're studying or that you want to pursue? If not, then maybe rethink that and look for another university that could offer that, or another college that could offer that. Getting experience is definitely the most important thing, because a bunch of entry-level jobs ask you if you have prior experience, which makes literally no sense. But that's how life works. I'm just the messenger. So get those REUs, get those internships, go study abroad on a budget, and learn new things. But most of all, do not, under any circumstances, take out student loans. Just don't do it. I mean, go watch my budget video, see how much money I usually send towards my loans, and cry. At the beginning of this video, I showed a reenactment of a true event that happened in a class with my best friend and I, and it really just had to do with us overhearing a conversation between two of our other classmates, and one of them responded by saying that they didn't apply for financial aid, and the tone that they used was essentially kind of like oh, I didn't do that, like, because I didn't need to. Why would I apply to something that I don't need? And at that moment, pretty much everyone in our class was stressed about meeting college applications or financial aid applications, so the question wasn't weird, but the answer certainly shocked us. Looking back now, it's just so interesting to think about, because at that moment, my friend and I were so shocked by the idea that someone would not apply for financial aid, especially to go to such an expensive university. In reality, all that person did was likely pick a good major with a good ROI and a school that they or their parents could afford. What's really unfortunate about that situation is that at the time, and even now, taking out thousands of dollars of student loans as teenagers has become so normalized and ingrained in our society that the idea of someone paying in cash for a service seems so out of touch with reality that it's honestly considered as a last possible resort. Oh, it's raining. Okay. Obviously, this is all a part of the student loan crisis, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon, but I really wanted to bring to light how our own ways of thinking, our own mindsets, kind of contribute to this. And I really do want to promote on my channel how good it is to pay for things in cash and not borrow money, and try to not use credit if you don't have the money in your bank account to just pay for it. So if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing. I think that anyone has the power to change their own financial situation, but ultimately I want you to think about how you can become more like classmate 2, or like classmate 2's parents who set their kid up for success. Because I would hate to see you with a college degree, starting a job, and having to send most of your paycheck towards a student loan that will not be paid off for a decade. Thanks for watching.
You can't improvise.